UFC Records. That is what we are going to be discussing today. We're going to be looking at the UFC's record book, and I'm going to be talking about whether or not these records can be broken in the modern era. Some of them can't be. And we're going to talk about the fighters, the specific fighters that can break these records. Now, we're going to be looking at career records, not just, fight records or whatever. We're looking at just total careers. Right off the bat, we're going to be looking at Jim Miller. Jim Miller has passed Donald Cerrone. A couple of fighters have passed Donald Cerrone in activity throughout the past couple of years. Andrei Arlovski, he has also passed Donald Cerrone, and he's also passed him in not only wins, but fights as well. But Jim Miller has totally eclipsed Donald Cerrone in total fights. Cerrone used to be like the Cal Ripken Jr. of MMA. He was the Iron Man, right? The guy that just fought, no matter who, no matter where. He was that guy. And right now it's Jim Miller. Jim Miller's kind of taken everything that Cowboy has worked for. Has he had as successful as a career as Cowboy in regards to, fighting for a belt and being a highly ranked contender? Not necessarily, but, Jim Miller's the new Cowboy in a sense. And he's got 45 total fights. He is the record leader when it comes to that. And he is the record leader when it comes to wins. The winningest fighter in UFC history. Will these records be broken? Well, let's look at the list, because the first thing that's important to look at is, are there modern era fighters on this list? Okay? If there are none, then it's going to be pretty hard to pass up in the modern era because things are so competitive and it's just hard to continue to win. But let's see. We've got Diego Sanchez at number 10, Damian Maia. We're looking at total fights right now at number 9. Neil Magny. Neil Magny's a modern fighter. Charles Oliveira is a modern fighter. But can you see Charles Oliveira, who has 34? Can you see Charles Oliveira having like 10 plus more fights in his career? I don't know, man. And that's just because I don't see Charles Oliveira sticking around in his 40s. I don't see Charles Oliveira, if he takes like a couple losses in a row, I don't see him sticking around that much longer. I'm saying maybe 7 fights we're going to see out of Charles max. I don't think he's going to break the total fight record. We'll see. Maybe if Neil Magny goes on a bit of a streak. How old is Neil Magny? Neil Magny's in his late 30s. I don't know if any of these guys are going to pass Jim Miller, right? I just don't know if that's the case, because Oliveira at this point is fighting like twice a year if it's a really good year for him, right? Maybe he'll only fight once next year and he'll have 35, and then he'll still be 10 away. And by then, Miller's going to have a couple more fights. So I don't know if this is a record that's going to be broken anytime soon. All right. So this ain't going to be broken anytime soon. As far as wins go, Oliveira 23, 24. Is he going to win his next fight? If it's against Holloway, is he winning that? I don't know. It's a 50-50. Is he going to win the fight after that? Who knows? Maybe 24. Okay. He's going to win one of the next 2, right? If he's fighting for a belt next and it's against Makhachev or Arman, I don't see him winning. So maybe one of the next 2, but he's always going to be fighting guys at the top. Is he going to pass Jim? And by then, is Jim going to have more? Is he going to have 28, 29? It's just one of those things where Oliveira's, he's making so much money per fight because he's on a great contract because of his championship run and how popular he is. He doesn't really, I don't think he's going to have the motivation to fight like 10, 12 more times. So I don't know if he's going to pass Miller. Who else? John Jones is definitely not sticking around. He's at 22. He's on there. He's number 5 most wins in UFC history. Dustin Poirier, he's not going to stick around and get 5 more wins. Can you imagine Dustin Poirier winning 5 times in a row? No. So how's he going to get 5 more wins? He's going to have to win 1, lose 1, win 2, lose 1. It's just not going to happen. Holloway is still relatively young. Maybe Holloway. I could see Holloway breaking the record. I could see it. But at the same time, Holloway doesn't strike me as someone that's going to stick around when he's no longer capable of competing in the top 10. And that might only be for another couple of years in which he is going to be competing in the top 10. Maybe he'll get 3 more wins. I don't know if Holloway's going to stick around that much longer. And this is the thing, right? These big stars that are on this list, they're all making tons of money per fight. So it's like they're going to be set up by the time they're like 3 or 4 more fights deep into their career. I don't know if Holloway's going to stick around. That's a really tough record to break. Wins. Let's look at finishes. Oliveira, he's got 20. I see Oliveira passing Miller or staying past Miller. Miller's at the number 2 spot with 19. You know what? This might not be something that's going to get passed. Honestly, guys, I don't think this is getting passed up anytime soon. So Oliveira is going to hold this record for a while. He's going to continue to build on it. KOs, this is another pretty crazy record. I mean, think about all the KOs that Tom Aspinall has, right? Think about all the KOs that Ilia Topuria has at this point. None of these guys are even on the list. I mean, Derek Lewis, 15 KOs. I mean, he's been in the UFC for forever. I mean, he's got a ton of losses as well. But like every single one of his fights, outside of maybe like 2, he beat Ngannou by decision. That was hardly a fight, but he's maybe got one other decision. Everything has been by KO. He fights pretty often, Derek Lewis. I mean, who else is even close to him? And are they active? Poirier at 11? I don't think Poirier is going to get 5 more KOs in his career, right? Because he's only going to fight a few more times. Holloway, I don't think Holloway's going to get 5 more KOs. He's going to have some decisions, maybe a KO. I could see Holloway getting 2 more maybe. Bisping, I don't know if Bisping's going to pass him, all right? I don't know if Bisping doesn't have that pop. No, but he's retired. Yeah, I think this is going to be a record that stands for a really long time because this is the thing. Aspinall might be able to work his way into this list, but will Aspinall stick around past his prime and be a journeyman type of fighter like Derek Lewis, who's winning one, losing one? I don't think so. A lot of these really great champions, they're not always the record holders because they don't stick around that long. Submission wins. Oliveira is the submission king at number 16, and no modern fighter even comes close. All right, I'm looking at this list. This is how impressive this is because Oliveira is not like an old head yet. Oliveira is still in his prime, maybe just coming out of it right now, but either way, 16 in his early 30s. That is insane. 16 submission wins in his early 30s. Jim Miller is like 41 years old, right? And he's got 13. That's still pretty impressive for Jim Miller. You've got Damian Maia retired. Gerald Meerschaert, I don't think he's passing this. Nate Diaz basically retired. Frank Mir retired. Gunnar Nelson never fights. You've got Islam Makhachev on here. Glover Teixeira's on the list. A lot of guys are tied at 7, Islam included. I think Islam Makhachev, there's no way he's passing Oliveira because he's not going to stick around that long after he loses his belt, if he even, gets to that point, right? Assuming he never loses again, but let's not assume that because that's probably not going to happen. But if Islam never loses and goes on to become the GOAT, he's retiring on top. He's not going to win 7, 8 more fights in a row, all right? So, and all by submission? Hell no. So that's just not going to get passed up. I think Oliveira is going to hold this record down for a long time. Khamzat Chimaev, he's getting close to 7, but even then, what's he going to get at the end of his career? 9, 10? He's not going to stick around that long. Oliveira is going to hold this record down for a while. He's probably going to extend it to 18, maybe 19, which would be insane if he does. I don't think that's ever going to get passed up. Neil Magny, what is this? Decision wins? He's got some competition because Bilal Muhammad is at the number 3 spot, tied at 3 with 12. You got Brad Tavares. Wow. Remember when Brad Tavares was talked about as being a gunslinger and a standing banger? Guy that went in there and just marauded on? He's a decision merchant, right? Andre Arlovsky used to be a KO guy. Wait, is he on the... I want to see if Andre Arlovsky is on the KO list. He's not, but I bet he's close. I bet Andre Arlovsky's got a ton of KOs as well. George St. Pierre, decision merchant. RDA, RDA doesn't know how to do nothing but go to decision. You know that, man. RDA's a decision guy. RDA's always been able to come to a good decision. Bilal Muhammad. Bilal, he's only 2 off from Neil Magny. I think Bilal, is he going to win his next fight? If he does, it's by decision. Bilal will stick around for a little while after he's champion. I think Bilal's going to actually take this record because I could see Magny, who just got KO'd brutally, retiring soon. Maybe Magny wins 2 more times, loses a couple more times, and then hangs it up. 16, right? That'll be the number of decision wins. And that's if we're being, nice to Magny, right? But Bilal Muhammad, 12 decision wins. I think Bilal's going to pass this record. I think Bilal's going to be the new record holder. But yeah, let's go on to the next one. Win streak. There's only one active fighter that is still on the win streak that's on this list, and that's Islam Makhachev. Anderson Silva is number 1, 16 wins in the UFC in a row. Usman was pretty close. He was about to tie it if he didn't get head kick KO'd by Leon Edwards. Now Islam Makhachev is at 14. And this is, in my opinion, underratedly one of the toughest records to have, especially in the lighter weight classes, because It might not seem like he's got to do a lot, right? You may think he's close, 14 versus 16, right? But what's the 15th win got to be? That's got to be Arman Tsarukyan. And then what's the 16th record-tying win have to be? That's got to be against, like, Shavkat Rakhmonov. That's got to be against a welterweight that's really good. And if he wins that, then he's got to fight another welterweight killer. 3 wins? That's a lot, all right? And what if a guy like Ilia Topuria moves up? Then he's got to beat Arman, Ilia, and then move up to welterweight. I don't know, man. I'll tell you this. If he passes Anderson, he's the GOAT, because the next 3 wins would be big enough to put him as the GOAT of the sport. Not only beating Arman Tsarukyan in his prime. He already has that win, but Arman in his prime. Second belt against a really good modern-era welterweight champion. This ain't no moving up to fight Michael Bisping like GSP did. This is a Shavkat or a Bilal. Like, these guys are in their prime. Even though Bilal's a little bit old. You get my point. Do I think he's going to pass it? I don't. Okay? I don't think he's going to pass it. I just, man, it's such a crazy feat. I think this is going to be one of those records that's not passed by anyone unless they're, like, for example, a really dominant yet boring fighter in the modern era. And what I mean by that is, I don't think anyone's going to be able to get to like 10, 11 wins in a row before winning the belt unless they're a really boring fighter that the UFC is just not really giving highly ranked contenders to, because they kind of don't want them to be up there and beating the top guys. And then when they'll get to the 11th win, 12th win, maybe they'll be like, all right, time to give them a ranked opponent. And then they'll get like a couple title wins, and like their second title defense, they'll be at like number 16, right? But Islam Makhachev, I think he had like an 11 fight win streak going into the Oliveira fight. So that would be 12. Then the 2 Volk fights, that'd be 13. Oh no, I mean, I guess he had a 10 fight win streak going into the Oliveira fight. He was on a crazy win streak, so I don't know. I have a feeling he's not going to pass it. It's such a difficult record to pass. There's almost like a curse on this record. Usman was right there, a minute away from tying it, and got KO'd. That's the thing. If you break this record in the modern era, you're going to be the GOAT. Like, the wins that you have to get to do that at this point, all the crazy title wins you got to have, you have to, at that point, be the GOAT of the sport. It's tough to be the GOAT of the sport. That's why it's such a great accomplishment. Title fight wins, John Jones, no. This is never going to be passed. Not even close. Anderson Silva, Demetrius Johnson, GSP Jones, what do they all have in common? They're basically all retired, right? John Jones is going to retire, I think. If he doesn't fight Aspinall, he'll retire. It's just never going to be broken. Who else is on here that's active? Adesanya. I mean, no fucking chance is he going to break this record. Maybe he wins the belt back. At best, he's going to defend it once. Like, Adesanya, if everything goes well, if we're in Peaches and Creamville, he's getting 10. Jose Aldo, he's not winning the belt again. This is never going to be passed. This is one of those records that's only going to be held for fighters in the, prehistoric era. Even though Jones is still fighting. You kind of get my point. Jones has started fighting in the 2000s. This ain't ever going to get passed. All right. If that's passed up, like, if someone is capable of breaking this record, then that person is literally going to have to be the most built different human being of all time. Because back in the day, it was easier to defend those belts when there was less competition. Like, literally, there were less people in the sport. So the gap, the skill gap between the best and the third and fourth was much wider than it is today. Everyone's elite. There's millions of people going into the sport that are trying to be UFC world champion. You're going to have to be like a mutant, honestly. You're going to have like, you know how Joe Rogan talked about Yoel Romero? And Joe Rogan said that the doctors talked about it. His neck is just fused differently. His recovery status. You're going to have to be that times 10. All right. You're going to have to be like, you're going to have some freakish ability to recover, next level chin, KO power. You basically have to have Ilia Topuria KO power boxing with Khamzat Chimaev grappling. You have to have Holloway-esque chin, right? Like the best chin ever. Ngannou level of power. Like, it's just never going to happen. I don't think humans are capable of being that built different, to be honest. That'd be insane. Shortest average fight time, Tom Aspinall. Very impressive. This is a record that could be broken. This is not one of the hardest records to achieve. It's very difficult to achieve it. Like, you have to be a next level, built different type of heavyweight KO artist, right? This is like a KO artist type of record to have. Let's see. Drew Drew McFredries was an absolute monster. If you guys don't know Drew McFredries, you're probably a new fan of the sport. Terrence McKinney, he's bad man. I'm kind of surprised to see Terrence McKinney on here. He's getting finished early and getting finishes early. James Irvin, Ronda Rousey, Chris Daukaus. Daukaus is on here for the wrong reasons because he's not a super hard-hitting guy. He's on here because he's been getting KO'd in the opening minute of a lot of fights. Sergey Pavlovich, that's not surprising. Cyril Asker. This is Cyril Gane's doppelganger. Cyril Asker. This is Gane's Dagestani doppelganger. That's pretty crazy. Askar Askarov combined with Cyril Gane, you get Cyril Asker. How is he finishing people early? I've never heard of this dude. Am I a casual? You're a casual, man. You've never heard of Cyril Asker, man. Like, that's not even a real fighter, is it? That's like one of those, this guy can't hurt you type of, Tom Jones can't hurt you, bruv, right? That's one of those ones. Like a little meme fighter, right? There's no way that's a real guy, is it? Cyril Asker. Shout out to Cyril Asker. He's probably one of the GOATs. Total fight time, RDA. Yeah, we kind of all knew that. RDA. Holloway. I could see Holloway breaking this. I think Holloway's going to break this record. RDA, 8 hours and 43 minutes. He's going to have a couple more fights, but I see Holloway having more fights. And I could see Holloway having a lot of... every Holloway fight is going to be 5 rounds, right? Even if it's not for a title and it's on a pay-per-view card, they'll make it like a 5-round feature fight. 5-round co-main event. He's going to go to a couple of decisions, so that's an extra, 50 minutes if it goes to a couple of decisions in 5-round fights? Yeah, he's breaking this. I think Holloway's going to break this. Miller, I don't see him breaking it. Yeah, Holloway is going to break this record, no doubt. He's going to have the record very soon. Let's get on to Knockdowns Landed. This is an interesting one. Donald Cerrone, 20 knockdowns landed. Anderson Silva at number 2, 18 knockdowns landed. Snipers on this list. Jeremy Stephens, that's actually kind of surprising. He's tied with Anderson Silva. Jeremy Stephens, Lil Heathen Stephens, had a lot of power, but power to be number 2 all time in knockdowns landed, that is very impressive. Barbozy at number 4 with 16 knockdowns. Chuck Liddell, that's not surprising. Lyoto Machida, not surprising. Mauricio Rua, Shogun. I am a little bit surprised to see all those knockdowns landed for him, actually. Thiago Santos, Poirier. I bet Aspinall could break this record, man. But that's the thing. If Aspinall knocks someone down, they're basically getting finished, so he doesn't have the opportunity to knock them down multiple times. This is a record that's going to stand for a long time because Barboza is close to, his final fight. I don't think he's going to stick around for that much longer. Here he is. Here's the GOAT, Drew McFredries. Drew McFredries. This is basically what I expected him to look like. Drew McFredries. He's sort of got a BJ Penn-esque John Dodson flyweight NPC. Nah, dude. Respect to Drew McFredries. Drew McFredries was an absolute GOAT. Okay? Tom Aspinall. I think Aspinall is going to break that record real soon. I know Drew McFredries probably had like 5 fights max. And he was just going to barn burner wars. Significant strikes landed. This is one of those records that will never be broken because of, look at the gap. All right. Sean Strickland, who's been around for a long time, at number 2 with 2,069 significant strikes. Holloway has 3,457 significant strikes, and he's going to have at least 5 or 6 more fights, I think. That's insane. Holloway's going to have 4,000 significant strikes when it's all said and done. Think about volume strikers. Think about guys like Volkanovski. He's got a lot of significant strikes. He's not even top 10, which is actually kind of crazy. Volk. Now, he's not had a million fights in the UFC, but he's not top 10. And he's the guy that's outstruck Max Holloway 3 times, right? That's kind of crazy. Holloway still basically 3,500 significant strikes. Angela Hill, kind of impressive to see her so high. King Green, he's got 1,800. RDA, 1,800. Frankie at number 6, Poirier at number 8, Cerrone at number 9. Yeah, no one's ever breaking that. No one is ever breaking that. Accuracy. Let's look at the most accurate fighters. Overeem, not that surprising. Overeem was extremely accurate. Anthony Hamilton was, if you guys don't know Anthony Hamilton was one of the greatest fighters of all time. All right, and he had a 65.6% significant strike accuracy. So let's get on to strikes landed per minute. Joshua Van. This is why I call him the modern day flyweight version of Max Holloway, because of how many significant strikes this guy will throw. Like his volume. His volume is insane. Aspinall at number 2. That's kind of crazy. That is kind of crazy, but his fights have been very short. They've not lasted a long time, which just means Joshua Van's record is that much more impressive because his fights are going to decision, and he's still holding this record. Holloway is at number 10, 7.16. Yeah, Joshua Van, 8.39. Significant strikes landed per minute. Pretty insane. Striking differential, Aspinall holds the record there. Striking defense, John Madsen. Strikes absorbed per minute, Jilton Almeida. He's absorbed hardly any because he's going straight at people's legs, taking them down early. Themba Gorimbo. Finessing people into thinking that they can hit him, not able to hit him, right? And but John Madsen, you got to talk about John Madsen. John Madsen is one of the maddest men fighters ever. He was a bad man, right? If you knew John, if back into the Strikeforce days, because again, I think the UFC counts Strikeforce fights. Madsen would just go out there and defend him like never before. You know, he was just a defensive mastermind of strike defense. But actually, you know, this is a pretty cool stat. You know, I'm surprised. Significant strike defense. I'm surprised that Sean Strickland is not on here. That's pretty crazy. George St. Pierre, John Madsen, Ryan Bader. I don't know, man. I think Sean Strickland, significant strike defense, Sean Strickland should be on this list. Takedowns landed, Merab. Can Merab pass this? Can Merab pass the takedowns landed record of 90? I think so. Merab's definitely going to take that record because Merab's going to have at least 3 or 4 more fights. So that record's getting passed up by Merab. GSP holds it, 90 takedowns. Merab at 85. He'll definitely get 6 more takedowns. Who else? You've got DJ at number 5, 74 takedowns. Gleason Tibau at number 3. That might surprise some people, even though he was a great grappler. Frankie Edgar at number 6. Colby Covington at number 7. Colby, he's still going to get more. I think Colby's going to get more than 70. He's at 69. He'll probably have like 74 after his fight with Joaquin Buckley. Damian Maia, RDA. Yeah, Merab is the only active fighter, in my opinion, that's capable of passing this record, and I think he will. That's a record that he will have very soon. Takedown accuracy. Interesting. Khamzat Chimaev is not the most accurate takedown artist ever. Instead, it is Nordim Taleb. Whoa. Nordim Taleb is the most, like, the way he looks, he is the most quintessential mid-2010s fighter. This is like the most 2016, 2015 Reebok short fighter ever. Okay? 100%. Then you've got Robbie Lawler, GSP is on the list at number 4. Wow. Montel Jackson at number 7. Interesting. Khamzat's not on here? That's kind of crazy that Khamzat is not on here. I know he had a couple of his takedowns stuffed by Usman, maybe one by Burns, but you know what? I don't like how they do this stat because, like Khamzat Chimaev, I bet they counted, one of his takedown attempts as a failure against Kevin Holland or some shit just because it took him more than a split second to get Kevin Holland down when he was trying to chain a couple takedowns together. You know, they'll just, Kevin Holland stuffed that one. He's still up on the feet for a second. Like, fuck that, man. Khamzat Chimaev, how is he not on this list? How Vitor Petrino is on this list? It's ridiculous, man. This is insane. Takedown defense, Julio Arce. That's actually pretty crazy. I did not expect him to have the best takedown defense according to statistics. 96.2%. Jones at number 2. Barao at number 5. Aldo at number 8. You know, Aldo is the best takedown defense ever. Julio Arce? Oh, no. Technically, Julio Arce. Like, this is the thing. Some of these record holders do not have the best takedown defense. Aldo is showing it at the highest level. He's never getting taken down. You know what I mean? Like, who the fuck is taking down Jose Aldo? Rob Font maybe took him down, but then Aldo reversed it instantly. Like, these are the type of takedowns they're counting. But Julio Arce, has had 20 takedowns attempted on a max, right? Because it said in order to qualify for the list, you have to have a minimum of 5 UFC fights and 20 takedown attempts by opponent. Like, he's what? People have shot on him 20 times. He's on the list. People have shot on Aldo 150 times. So give me a break. Submission attempts, Jim Miller. Jim Miller just throwing up submissions every single chance he gets. 49, Oliveira 46. I think Oliveira is going to pass Jim Miller. That is it for UFC records. That is it. I think a lot of these will be broken, but a lot of them, no. A lot of them will not be broken, especially that like title fight wins record. No one's ever going to pass Jones. Yeah, again, you have to be like the most built different fighter ever. And even the guys that are on this list right now are like super built different. That's why they're all goated. GSP, DJ, Silva, Jones. And you got to be 10 times more built different to do that in the modern era. It's just not going to happen. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time.